working without this is like working without one of my fingers. What's up, internet? It is a beautiful day outside. The birds are singing and they want me to tell you all about what my must-have tools are for here in my sewing room. We're here in my studio that I run Closet Champion out of. That is my professional wrestling gear business. What I'm about to tell you might not be exactly the newest news, and it may not be like a magic invention that can cure everything, but these tools definitely help me out in getting things done day to day and making sure that my business and my creativity runs smoothly. So let's get started. Number one. The first thing I want to tell you guys about is water and air soluble fabric markers. These are the kind that I use. They are the Mark Be Gone marking pen from Dritz. They come in this blue color and in this purple color. So these blue ones, basically you can draw on your fabric and then you use a soft, wet cloth. Doesn't necessarily have to be soft. I guess you could use a rough, wet cloth if you really wanted to. If you were like, take it, sewing project, you don't deserve my soft stuff. You've taken so much life out of me. I understand that. Use a rough cloth if you need to. But I use a damp cloth and you can just basically erase the marking pen. It's amazing. I use these all the time, especially if I'm working with light colored material. Obviously test them on your fabric first. But this one goes away with water, and this purple one, which I think is called a disappearing ink pen, this one is air soluble as well, so it'll just fade over time. It's just so great to not have to worry about marking up my material, being able to get crisp lines, clean lines, and make sure everything's in place. I get really anal retentive about lining stuff up, so these can be helpful just to put a dot somewhere if I need to make sure something lines up instead of having to clip the fabric in order to mark a seam or something. Number two. The second thing I'm going to tell you about is thread snips. You obviously have your fabric shears and your paper shears and your various scissors for different things. But you also want to get thread snips because even if you're using your paper scissors or whatever, they're gonna dull over time from opening and closing so much. So these are great to make sure that you don't dull your other scissors, and they're just handy to have around. You can get them really cheaply. I'm actually gonna give you guys a link in the description box below to the website that I get a lot of my sewing supplies from, which is wawak.com. You can get the disappearing markers there too. I keep one at each machine. I keep one in various areas so that way I don't have to worry about searching for my one thread snip. And yeah, they make a good sound too. Man, birds, you're really going to town, huh? Number three. The third thing I'm going to tell you guys about today is the magnetic pincushion. If you are a regular sewist, you obviously use pins all the time and they kind of get everywhere. So it is super important to have a magnetic pincushion either in addition to or instead of a traditional pincushion, so that way you can just sweep the magnet over your project or over your sewing area and you can pick up all those little pins, especially if you're like sweeping up your sewing room floor, sweeping up the area where your crates floor. There's going to be a ton of pins in that little like tangle of threads and scraps, and you don't want to sort through all of that, so you can just wave your magnet over top. You can also just use a regular magnet, use that to pick up your pins, especially if you're like lazy and you're done with your project and you're like, I don't want to clean up. Magic! Alright, number 4 on this list is starting to get more into my specialty materials that I work with. I do a lot of work with spandex and vinyl and foam as a wrestling gear designer. Man, putting it through my hoe machine the first couple times I was doing it when I was starting my business, it was such a disaster. And if I had known about this then, it would have been so happy. This is Silicone Spray. You can get this on Amazon for like $8. It's not super expensive. Get the dry type. It's not going to leak into your fabrics and create any of that, like, it's not going to look like an oil spot. Sometimes the Teflon foot can only go so far when you're working with vinyl all the time. Like, it's just not enough when you're working with tons and tons of this material or really thick stuff. And even sometimes the traditional projects I work on, if they're just getting finicky or sticky or the machine isn't working, like underneath in the gears, I can just quick spray with the silicone to make sure it moves fast through before I can get like a real good oil and maintenance. I use this as kind of a quick fix in the meantime for that as well. It is so helpful. Genuinely, I use this all the time. The fifth item on my list, actually really the first item on my list, I was saving the best one for last, you guys, is spray adhesive. Not just regular spray adhesive, we're not talking your Elmer's craft adhesive. If you do not know about this, you're welcome. You're welcome for this. It is genuinely a huge part of my creative process. I specifically use Adhesive brand 505 Spray and Fix. You use this to stick pieces of fabric together. And I know that doesn't sound like a really important thing, like it's just glue, how much could it really do? But for what I do, everything is this super intricate applique, all the different stripes and dots and letters and things that have to go on to the wrestling gear. I have to sew on as individual pieces, and before I do that, they get spray glued onto the project. I line all of my gear, almost all of my gear, unless the client requests otherwise, by flat lining. And flat lining is when you basically just put two pieces of fabric together and use them as one piece to create a garment. To help the longevity of the holographic material and the sparkly material, I'll line it with a plain spandex. And the way I do that is by spray gluing the pieces together. Genuinely, it is part of almost every part of the process of making wrestling gear. Adhesive USA, if you are listening, it's so good. It changed my life. Thank you so much for watching this video. If there is a tool that you absolutely cannot live without in your sewing room, let me know in the comments below. And if you're feeling social media friendly type, you can follow me on Instagram at Closet Champion, or you can follow me personally at I am Kate Nix. I'll see you there, I'll see you in the comments, and hopefully you'll be sewing with style and speed in the future thanks to these tips. Bye! I'm just so excited to be a bird right now.